Maloni tato e a mai la, hoki mai ki tēnei puni I pāho, hoki mai ki tēnei whare kōrero. Ko tahi te kaupapa, he manaaki I tēnei reo ā-tāhua, ko te reo Māori. It's Ari and Vinny here, and throughout this season of Two Couple to Kōrero, we've been on a journey to uncover how we as a whānau can reach our wawata, our dreams for language within the home. E te whānau, it's episode 10. If you've followed us throughout this season 1, thank you so much. We're so grateful you took precious time out of your day to be with us. We hope there are things in here that make you feel good, that offer you hope, that support your language dreams, or give you inspiration to get up and do something for your language today that is lasting. As it's our last epi for this season, we're going to take a moment to check in with each other. We'll wrap up some key learnings from our time together this season and reflect on what it has all meant to us in our language journey. We've got one final word to add to our language kete, hoki. You would have heard it at the start of this episode. Hoki mai ki tēnei whare kōrero. We've replaced kuhu mai and nau mai with hoki mai. Welcome back. Hoki mai ki tēnei whare kōrero. Welcome back to this house of discussion. Hoki mai ki te whare. You can use this one when you're bringing people back into your home. Hoki mai ki te hui. Welcome back to the hui. We've learned quite a lot of language in these 10 episodes e hoa mā, and it's all based around welcoming people into your space. We chose that deliberately because we wanted it to be relevant to our podcast, but we also wanted to be hospitable and welcome you into our lounge and life for a bit. He oi anō, it's time for our last hurrah e hoa mā, so let's crack into it. Two Couple to Kōrero episode 10 is incoming. We have done 9 epis. This is our 10th episode. I wanted a party popper so that I could the party popper and go wee.
Let's just pretend.
So I'm very excited to be at episode 10. How are you feeling?
It's pretty buzzy. Yeah, I can't believe that we're up to 10 now.
Whoop, whoop.
What started as just like an idea is now like real. And we're up to the final episode. It's quite cool. I'm glad we had 10 episodes worth of stuff to talk about.
Has it been what you thought it would be? Because this was your idea.
Yes and no. It sounded like a great idea at the time. Like, yeah, this is easy. In reality, I didn't realise, how hard it was to set up cameras and lighting and listening back and hearing things that I'd say and think like, why did I say that? and thinking like, it would be so easy to just talk into a microphone and just say whatever. But actually having to not monitor yourself, but make sure you stay on track, which is really hard for me to do because I just talk in all directions.
Take your own journeys.
I do.
Yes.
I was really nervous in the beginning. I didn't think I would be until the cameras turned on and the lights turned on, and so I can hear it in the first few episodes. I feel lots better now.
That's good.
Yeah. What about you?
I feel good. I am really happy that we've managed to do 10 epis and get so much cool stuff to talk about on our podcast. I have loved talking about things with you, and I've had a great time with the guests. I had a thought for this epi, just a thing that we hold for like the mauri of this epi as our wrap-up epi, which is a quote from the Tongue Unbroken podcast. If you haven't heard of it, we'll link it, but it's such a great podcast. It's from Dr. Hune Lance Twitchell, who's a native Alaskan, and he's a good friend and colleague from Alaska. And in one of his episodes, he talks about this quote from one of his elders who passed away recently, Norman James. And I asked Hune if I could use this quote from Norman James or his native Alaskan name, Aklake. I hope I've said that all right. because I thought it was such a great way to round out our podcast. It's a beautiful quote. And what ākleke talks about is, in this game of language and cultural being, we're all just walking around trying to find someone to laugh with. So that's the quote that he comes out with, that ēnei references. We're all just walking around trying to find someone to laugh with. And I feel like that quote really resonated within me as something that wraps up everything that we've been trying to do in the last 9 episodes, which is about, it's been language trauma, it's been language anxiety, it's been language death and loss and revival and maintenance and hard politics, racism, colonization, all of that hard stuff, and the beautiful stuff too, like raising babies in our languages, and seeing hope, and seeing happiness, and seeing whānau growth, and seeing really good family communication, and seeing new beginnings. And all of those things, I think, have come full circle to show me that in our first season of Tū Kapo Tū Kōrero, that's what you and I have been trying to do. Just walking around, trying to find people to laugh with. And so it's been really cool. That's been my highlight, and I'm going to hold that little quote as the little tuapapa for today's EP. What is your highlight from this season, or this series? First season.
First thing that came to mind was learning more about you, not only as my partner, but the work that you do. Like, I've seen you speak, I've seen your articles, and I've seen your books and things. Being able to sit with you and ask all my random burning questions that I could ask you at any point, but maybe I just haven't thought about until we've been in this environment where it's really safe. All the topics that we talk about are probably things I thought about but never had anyone to ask, throughout my life. And then all of a sudden I have this amazing, smart, beautiful person that I can just ask all these burning questions to and get my answers. And I feel like every episode has kind of built even more confidence in me, but also helped me be a little bit more kinder to myself in terms of my language journey. Even the quote that you talked about, we were just walking around trying to find someone to laugh with, is essentially how I feel like I'm living my life now, and it makes me feel really
Cool.
Really happy to have no pressure on me, and that I can learn my language in my own time and at a pace that works for me and my family.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Second one would probably be bringing Pāti in. Kate and I have known each other since we were 3 years old, and that's the first time we've ever talked about language in all the years that we've known each other. So that was really cool to have that kōrero.
I loved that episode. I loved it. It taught me that we don't have to be monolingual here in Aotearoa, and it taught me that I think we as Māori people looking to change the language of our home, we could learn something, I think, from the people that we host here, like the tangata tiriti that we host here in Aotearoa, and we wrap them in ourselves. I think we could learn a lot about what language in the home looks like by taking some time to understand how they have managed to retain them. They face the same similar racism, oppression, all those things that we do here in Aotearoa, and they've managed to hold them strong, and they've managed to even go up and down. Some people have a lot, some people have a little, but that up and down for me is still a maintenance of some sort. It's not just the down, which so many of us have sort of sat on for ages. So I loved that episode. There was something the Warka said as well, which has stuck in my head, about how unprepared New Zealand and New Zealanders are to receive other languages.
Yes.
Like when there was something that she said about moving to New Zealand, going to school, and being told off, I think, for not doing her homework. But she wasn't an English speaker then. And it made me think how ridiculously illogical it is for a New Zealand teacher to just demand someone speak English straight away and complete a really specific set of prescribed tasks that they could do in another language, but because of the pure just lack of want, or to allow that, it blew my mind. I never thought about it like that. Like, how ridiculous of our society to just demand that. And it reminds me of, when some New Zealanders go overseas to other non-English speaking countries and just start yelling louder, as if that's going to help. It was very, very, very like a stark reminder of it's not what I want for my language, and it's not what I want for this society. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in my own language bubble of Māori and Tokelauan, and sometimes I don't even think about what language conversations are happening around me that are either very alike, or there's cultures that don't even talk about it because it's just normal to them to be multilingual, and it's not a thing, there's no pressure there. And I think that kind of helped me kind of sigh in relief that, man, I put so much pressure on myself to be this certain level by a certain time, and I'm like, I'm not the only one. It makes you feel less isolated, I think, when you're so I felt like that a lot during our guest episodes. They were really eye-opening.
Our other guest epi with Holly and Liki was such a awesome eye-opener into how great it can be making the moves to raise your children in their languages. Such an amazing reminder of, multilingualism is like it's normal and amazing, and I think it's interesting to think about those two things together. Like, it's completely normal for baby, but it's also really amazing because it is such an awesome achievement. But just seeing how those two languages can be present in the same whare, that it doesn't detract from another language, it doesn't remove anything. There's so much that we think about in society, I think of, we can't do more than one language at a time, or we can't do more than one language because the child will get confused, or all of these things that are totally false and none of them mean anything. But they're used by English speakers as a way of, causing language death in the home. And then you've got these amazing people who are just doing it, and it just looks so hopeful, and it looks so happy.
It's the dream, eh?
Yeah, and that's the walking around trying to find someone to laugh with for me. Doesn't have to be the same language, it just has to be people who you can hang out with and be cool with and raise cool fun with. And yeah, I really loved those two EPs for those things. Our guest EPs particularly, they taught me about the reality of language maintenance of multiple languages. I've never had that. And so it's something that I know that I want, and it's something that we talk about a lot trying to get. So something new was, for me, what is it? Because in my head it's a dream that I've created and built in my mind about what it will look like and feel like and sound like. But then you've got these people who are actually doing it, and you start to kind of like, okay, all right, so that's how multilingual people handle multiple languages in the home and cross communication, and because those have always been sold to me as an issue, but they're not an issue, they're an opportunity. They're an opportunity to have fun, they're an opportunity to share laughter, because you have the two languages or the three languages or however many languages that work with each other to provide opportunities for humour. So those are things that I learned across our guest EPs, where there are multiple languages around in the home. They are both doing them differently as well. So I think for me, I would want to like go down there a lot further and just have heaps more guests, because it's got to be different for every whānau, and I've found that so warming and hopeful. If you had to wrap up the series in 3 words.
Relief. Not because we're finished, but I think language relief for a whānau. Hope was going to be one, but you've said it twice now, so I will say it a 3rd time. Community. I don't think I've thought about the importance of community until we got to this point and when I was reflecting on our guest epis, and we've touched on it. You can teach your whānau language in the home. You could send your child to a language speaking school or club or something like that. But if they don't have anywhere else to go and to use the language and stuff, that makes it a bit hard. So I guess building your own little language community so that your babies have multiple people to talk to. I didn't think about that and how hard that might be if you're only speaking it at home and not at school and not out and about or with other whānau. So finding other language speakers, getting the babies together, getting the language learners together so that they can practice speaking. I think when we first started talking about, having babies and passing the language on, I just thought of it in the home. And now I feel like my view on that is so much broader.
So cool.
Yeah.
Finding more people to laugh with.
Finding more people to laugh with.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. Relief, hope, and community. That's great. In my experience, people never talk about languages in a hopeful way. We talk about our languages in terms of anxiety and sadness and negativity and language trauma and what we don't have, or how hard it is, difficult it is, or how much work is involved, and all of those are valid. But for me, it's so great, I think, to have an experience where you end it feeling some relief and hope and a sense of community.
I think if you go in with like a doom and gloom mindset, you run the risk of passing those feelings and sentiments onto whoever you're trying to bring into your language circle. And I don't think, my experience, that doesn't work. And so I just think about all the negative or sad or anxious moments that I've had in language spaces, and just want to be more mindful not to make anyone else feel like that. Go in positive and bring them in positive. Then hopefully it'll be a good start.
I was looking on a Facebook post yesterday and I saw the really same old language purist stuff that happens all the time, really negative, criticising somebody's reo, where they were advertising like a playgroup. It was a playgroup for learners, so they're a learner themselves. They're not saying they're a teacher, they're not saying they're the expert, they're just saying, hey, I want to start a playgroup. Here's a poster, come join. And somebody down below had started just correcting like every single little tiny little thing, like, oh, you're missing a macron, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you are such a big part of our problem of language revival, because you are not a teacher, you are not in a teaching environment, you aren't even explaining it correctly, so the teacher in me is like, it's not even correct. And I can't stand that, the way that people take those community learner interactions away from people. It's so negative, and I just think that's horrible. Luckily, that particular person received it really nicely, and they were very gracious about saying thank you for your corrections and things like that. But not everybody takes it that way, and they are entitled to not take it nicely. Actually, if we did another season of this language purism, I would love to do an episode about that because I could yell and scream about it. Well, we talked a lot about communication and about how, communicating on an equal footing is so important in language. If you're going to throw your power dynamic over someone in a really weird way, like forcing a teacher-student vibe into a partnership where it's meant to be equal, those are things that I think don't at all ever work. I think they're always going to spell trouble. So that's a great reminder actually of those two epis around communication is really key, that it's okay to mess up and try again. Tuvarka actually said that in the episode. I want to go back and talk to my husband. I want to do that again. I think that was really cool. So you can do it again, but that communication on an equal footing and talking about those things is really key, but then also not heaving a power dynamic across them and kind of stuff.
It just gives ick.
It's giving me the opposite of risk.
What is a perspective you hadn't considered before?
About language?
Yeah.
It's
popped up during these 9 eps.
There are so many. Some of the languages that we manaki, some of our migrant languages that we manaki here. Pacific languages to a certain extent might be included in this, but I am particularly thinking of Tamil because that's the one that we had here, and I'm not sure about Tongan. But a perspective I hadn't considered is the political nature of some of the homes of these languages and where these people have come from in order to get here and become part of the language diversity of Aotearoa. And I think that's a perspective that I absolutely had not considered, because I remember it hitting me a little bit in the chest when we were filming and recording Epi 8 with Karte and Tuvarka, and they're just talking about unrest, and I had never considered that for the perspective of the languages that we host here. And so I think it made me more inclined to consider just the sheer difficulty that those languages have undergone and are still here. So while there's parts about it that were so very sad, things that I didn't know, there were things that they talk about in their episode, I didn't know about those things before. I also came out of that thinking, if there is resilience there, we can have resilience here on our own homeland. In the current political context, and I hope we come back and listen to this in 10 years and it's all changed, but in our political context of 2024, where we do have some loud, some very few, but some very loud and well-funded voices in Aotearoa trying to fight against the resilience of language and the resilience of people. Some of them are really well-funded to be evil,
yes,
and some of them are just so thick that it goes in one ear and out the other, and they don't really realise. The IQ is so low. But one of the things that I learnt from gaining that perspective from those episodes, is that multilingualism is the only inclusion that there is when it comes to language. Monolingualism, I don't think anymore can ever be inclusive. I don't think it's possible. Multilingualism is the only way. So if we're going to have a truly inclusive society in Aotearoa, it is going to have to be multilingual as hell, like way more diverse than it is now, way more multilingual than it is now. We're going to have way more languages than we have now. It's not going to be just, these very well-funded or thick-ass people talking about English only. I'm talking like 20, 30, 40 languages floating around out there in Aotearoa, and we are all part of this like massive linguistic diversity. I am so convinced that that's true. The more that I experience 2024 and see that English is not only something fighting against inclusion, but that it's becoming the source of global division. So it's approaching it from two angles. It's not just killing inclusion, it's also promoting division, and it's the only language doing that. There are no other languages that I know of where you've got people saying, I don't think we should speak any other languages on earth except this one. But English is saying that. So I think that's what I'm learning. That's the perspective I've gained. This is the only way. Multilingualism is the only way. I'm convinced if everybody spoke Māori, we wouldn't be having the te tiriti conversations that we are. The people that are, they're yelling about te tiriti, they don't even know how to read it. They don't know what it says. They haven't even looked at it. You know what I mean? They've seen interpretations in English. They've written their own in English. They can't speak Māori, can't read and write Māori. So I'm convinced that we need that. Yeah, that's the perspective I've gained. What would a season 2 look like?
More lights, more pizzazz, more guests,
more riz,
travelling.
Okay.
No. There's random things that I've thought about if we were to ever do a season 2. I would just really love to hear feedback from listeners, and just to see if our kōrero resonates with people, whether it be couples or learners or reo speakers that maybe hadn't really thought about their future and their future whānau and what they would want, or maybe even people that are listening and thought, oh no, like I've actually done or said that to a learner and didn't even think twice about it, and now I'll try not to do that again. Like that, I would love that. Yeah, if people had like thoughts or questions or things that they might want to know about, I'd love to see if those ideas could be played out in a season 2.
Those 2 guest EPs are, I think, the best part. They're such a highlight for me. I learned so much. Such great people. I'd almost want to do that like exclusively for our season 2, and I'd maybe want to branch out a little in terms of languages. We've held ourselves, I think, to te reo Māori, and for good reason, you know, because that's where we are looking. But now that I've heard from these other language backgrounds, I'm starting to think, oh my goodness, what else is in there for us to learn and share with each other? Because they just blew my mind. Seeing all these languages interact together, hearing from the Tamil language community that over there, people are like, what do you mean New Zealanders can't speak Māori? That's so silly. Do you remember that comment?
Oh my goodness.
What do you mean? That's so silly. That's so irrational and illogical. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, what else is out there for us to learn and hear about? Because it was so heartwarming. So big thank you, kia ora, to our guests. Yeah.
Have any of your thoughts for our future whānau changed since doing this podcast?
I don't think so.
Cool.
I don't think so. I think I'm still very much like quite resolute in what I want to do. Like I know that I want to be the primary reo speaker when we have children. I'm not worried about what that means for other languages in our home, which may be English or tōkelo. I'm not concerned about trying to have this much reo, or making you or anyone else do language in a certain way. I'm feeling quite good about that still. I'm feeling very steadfast, I think, in the idea of one parent, one language can work. We've seen that in our episode with Holly and Liki. If anything, I'm more keen to suggest to people that you can relax about this as long as you're doing it the right way, through language planning and making sure that you are actually progressing.
And have a balance in the way that you talk to your babies in the language. Like if you're going to tell off your baby, Give them
Yeah.
love in the language too.
Yeah. And if you only have access to a little bit of language, it can't be discipline. It can't be orders and commands. It's got to be praise. That's where you start. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Are we too couple to kōrero?
I think we are couple enough.
Couple enough to kōrero.
Yeah.
Okay, so season 2 we're going to change the name. Do you have anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up.
That if there are listeners out there that are wanting to start or wanting to change, do it with love, support and communication, and if you get it wrong, it's okay. That's my mini little recap from a learner perspective.
Sage wisdom.
Okay. What about you?
I want to come back to ā-pūtea, Norman James, from the Tongue Unbroken podcast with ēnei. In the end, we're all just walking around. We're all just doing life, trying to find people to laugh with. So that has to be, for me, how we think about everything. Despite the difficulties, despite the fights that we might have to have outside of our families and in society for our linguistic rights and our cultural rights and all of those things, when it comes back to home, that's what it's got to be based around. Just trying to find people to do life with, to live with, to laugh with. When we get to that point of language revival that we all want, that's all we're going to be doing anyway. But we'll just be doing it in our language. We'll be walking around laughing with people, but it'll be all in te reo. On that, just want to say a big shout out to te Matawai for funding our podcast, for taking a little chance on 2 amateurs, and to Ata as well for working with us and allowing us to make mistakes and figure out what we were doing because we didn't really know, giving us advice.
Yeah.
You're all amazing people. Tēnā koutou.
Nā mihi ki a koutou.
Whakaaomarama lahi lele.
Aww.
That's a wrap for our last episode, team. We hope you've enjoyed listening to our podcast. A big shout out to ēnei on the Tongue Unbroken podcast. And I want to once again acknowledge the Klingit elder ā-pūtea Norman James and his words of wisdom that we talked about today. What would a season 2 look like for you? Hea hao whakaaro? What would you like to hear about? We'd love to hear your feedback, so long as it's based on a platform of high and reciprocal mana. Talk to us like mates hanging out in our lounge. If you can do that, we're happy to hear from you. I want to leave my last kupu for te Matawai, for taking a chance on us and funding this season of the podcast. Mai kore koutou I ahua mai ai tēnei kaupapa ki te ao. To the team at Ata, especially Ari, who was bogged down with all of our content, e mihi kau atu ana ki a koe, kia koutou katoa te whānau o Ata. Ko te teina tēnei e mihi atu ana ki te tuakana ki te mātanga ki te rangatira. And last of all, a big thanks to Ari for coming along with me on this journey. It was such a great thing to be able to do together as a couple. See you on season 2. This is 2 Couple to Kōrero, signing out.